One of the most powerful things that you can do for your life is to make sure you got adequate nutrients coming into your body. When we get to the end of this, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Very, very simply, I'll give you a complete plan about how to do that. And we're going to use a case study nutrient called choline. Not a lot of people are getting adequate choline. And guess what? There's a lot in egg yolks. If you're paying any attention to what's going on in the world right now, I don't know why they're trying to take this out of the food supply. Now, we're also going to talk about genetics when it comes to choline status, because we've tested hundreds and hundreds of people and we're all different. The RDI is 450 for men, and mine, I'll actually put this into Chris Masterjohn, who's got a PhD in nutrition science, into his calculator and show you how much choline I need. It will shock you. It's a lot more than 450. And we can even work out what kinds of choline are going to be suited for you. Now, why would you care about choline? Well, it's involved in so many different things: rest and digest and mental calm, liver detox, cell membranes, brain health. For example, in Dr. Daddis's book, Why My Brain Isn't Working, and he's a clinician with a PhD, DHSC, DC, MS, MMSC, FACN, really smart individual. And he provided an illustration in that book about a case study with two PhDs. Now, one was on a low-fat diet. What are we told? Low-fat diets are good. We're also told to avoid fatty meats, organ meats, egg yolks, things like that. You get the idea. Now, the interesting thing about choline, it's not really found in plants. So in that book, he also said that lots of patients come to him and the clinicians that he teaches, they check out their choline status and it's suboptimal and they are underperforming. Now, here's the example. Choline is a precursor. Choline turns into acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter, neuromodulator. Now, when it comes to brain and academic performance, but also motor performance for sports, acetylcholine is critical for learning and memory and important for taking short-term memories into long-term memories. It's a twofold problem. So you've got to have enough choline to facilitate that. So the hippocampus, short-term memories, then at nighttime, guess what happens? Stage 2. So acetylcholine triggers REM sleep, and REM sleep takes what the hippocampus learned from short-term memory, a brain region, and encodes it into the cortices for long-term potentiation. So super important. And Daddis went on to say that you can be reading a book and it's just not sinking in because you don't have enough choline to make acetylcholine to facilitate that. So you're reading it over and over again, and it's just not going in. And you wake up the next morning because you don't have enough acetylcholine to trigger REM sleep to take it from short-term memory to long-term memory. It's just like, what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? Your nutrition is off. And again, I'll show you how to put this together towards the end there. So here are some of the symptoms from Dr. Daddis of a choline deficient diet. So when it comes to academic performance, this is what I've mainly got here. It's involved with a lot of other things like liver detox, things like that. So loss of visual and photographic memory. So think about that. People in academia there, they're looking at a lot of schematics and graphs, and they're trying to conceptualize. So you're losing that. Then also loss of verbal memory, memory lapses, impaired creativity, which is foundational. And of course, diminished comprehension. So we'll stop there. I just want to come down the bottom of the page here. So you've got depressed mood, fast heart rate because you're stressed out, and I'll explain that on the next slide. Chronic inflammation, emotional instability, or muscle contraction, fatty liver, Alzheimer's, and insulin resistance. So choline is a building material and it turns into a neurotransmitter. So it is an important nutrient, but they're all important. And we'll show you how to put it all together towards the end. So what about rest and digest? So here is how it all plays out. Choline turns into acetylcholine. It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system for rest and digest and mental calm. Now, imagine if you're not getting enough choline and all the other nutrients, you can't facilitate that. So throughout the day, you're trying to learn, you're getting emotionally stressed, and you can't trigger rest and digest and mental calm. So you're up, you're down, you're all over the place, and you get to the end of the day and you're just like, fuck it, I've had enough. So you reach for booze and bad food and make it all worse. So a lot of people are just suboptimal because they don't have adequate nutrition. Nutritional status is absolutely foundational. Now, let's have a look at a couple of the three of the big mistakes that a lot of people make. Now, according to Harvard Health, if you're taking common anticholinergic drugs, and I'll show you a big list right here in a moment, what can happen is dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. So what they've shown now is if you're on these drugs for like 3 years, which is quite a long time, you shouldn't be on them that long, then you've got a 54% higher dementia risk than if you was just taking them for 3 months there. So this is issue 1 of 3. So let's have a look at the drugs in question. Now this should be linked below from Dr. Liz below, this one right here, and have a look at what these drugs are used for. It just blows my mind to think that the doctors aren't saying, look, this is a short-term strategy. We can't stay here, right? It's a short-term strategy. Why? Because you've got a big risk of dementia and brain disease. We can't stay here. So antihistamines, allergy, cough, cold medications, some anxiety drugs. So they're all listed on this, as she's got it here, the anticholinergic pocket reference card here. Asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, muscle spasms, relaxants and pain medication, antipsychotics. Then you've got antidepressants. Then you've got mood disorders. Then you've got stomach issues ×2. So lots of stomach issues for a lot of people. And paradoxically, acetylcholine triggers good gut health, and they're shutting it down. Why? I just don't understand that. Movement disorders like Parkinson's disease, motion sickness, dizziness and nausea, insomnia and sleep, and all these bladder drugs as well. So as you can see there, you don't want to stay them on long term. So ask your physician, take them this handy pocket reference card and say, listen, I need to get off these. What can we do? So pay careful attention to that one there. Now, 2 out of 3, gut health. So when you don't have enough choline, as I'll show you on this slide here, it's going to give you very slowly what's called dysbiosis. And this is something that you can measure. I'll come back to that slide. So when it comes to gut health, it's absolutely foundational because your gut has a brain and it speaks to all of these organ systems. So you've got a gut brain axis, so stress, anxiety, depression. So they put you on those anticholinergic drugs. It makes it all worse. Schizophrenia, cognitive decline, autism. Then, of course, your hormones, your sex hormone production comes down, and what's replaced? Stress hormones go up, but you're up, you're down. You're up, you're down. And at the end of the day, you're just like, I just don't care. Fuck it. I'm going to have some bad food and some booze to take the edge off my stress and anxiety. That's what I used to do many, many years ago. Then, of course, heart disease shows up, and then lungs. And it goes back to those anticholinergic drugs as well there. So you got chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma, wheezing, allergies, and then the liver, which is absolutely foundational, as you'll see. Like choline, you have to have choline for a healthy liver. Then the pancreas releases satiety hormones. They go up the vagus nerve in the brain. They say, dude, you've had enough to eat. Stop eating. Sick gut, that's not going to happen. It also releases enzymes to help you fully digest your food so you don't get bloating, brain fog, and tired after you eat. Then, of course, your bones get weak. Then your muscles are impaired. So you might be trying to pack on the muscle and you're finding it really difficult. However, 50, 60, sarcopenia sets in and you become very frail. Then the skin axis, so atopic dermatitis, cirrhosis, and you've also got alopecia, hair loss, advanced wrinkles and skin aging, like the jowls sink down, you get discoloration on your skin. And then double whammy here, like your hormones are tapped out here, but they're also your gonads, the actual organs that make the sex hormones, they tap out as well. Kidneys, bladder. You've also got a thyroid axis, eye axis, gallbladder axis. Every organ has an axis. So let's talk about why choline is critical. So 4 big issues. I'll start here, inflammation. So these anticholinergic drugs. So choline has an anti-inflammatory properties through the acetylcholine production, modulating inflammation via the cholinergic pathway. So think about you taking these anticholinergic drugs, you're screwed right there. Inflammation in the gut, no good. Then, of course, it screws up your barrier, your protective lining of your gut. and your intestines and colons there. So phosphatidylcholine is an essential membrane, building material of the intestinal cells. And then, of course, you've also got issues with bad gut bugs, bad bacteria that produce way too much TMA and TMAO in the liver. And then if you don't get enough choline, you will get a fatty liver. Phosphatidylcholine and fatty liver. So phosphatidylcholine is the major phospholipid in your bile. So let me walk you through that. So when you detox chemicals, heavy metals, estrogen for that matter, it goes through phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox. Now remember how the gut speaks to liver. So healthy gut, healthy liver. That's huge. So the liver then takes phosphatidylcholine through the gallbladder into the first chamber of the small intestine there, then into the colon, and we get rid of it. Now, if you don't have enough choline, this is what happens. So one of the first signs, as they say down here, one of the first clinical signs of dietary choline deficiency is the development of fatty liver. And you can check for this. It's very simple to check for this. I don't know why physicians don't. As you can see here, very close to being way too low. So that person is very predisposed to having a fatty liver. And then when your liver is sick, look at the dysfunction. So again, adequate choline, you're good. Choline deficiency, liver is sick. It needs help. And that's going to also cause dysbiosis and screw up your gut. So oxidative stress, you've got DNA damage, you've got inflammation, and your liver enzymes go up. And your doctor says, man, stop eating so much beef. You know, this is terrible. And they're blaming the wrong thing there. They're not checking everything. You've got to check everything to find out what the true culprit is, then attack it. And it can also drive up this thing here, HCl. What is HCl? Homocysteine. Now, you've probably never heard of homocysteine. We check this all the time because homocysteine can cause cardiovascular disease, brain disease like epilepsy, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, can screw up your eyesight and your hearing, your gonads, so your sexual performance, your endocrine system, your skeletal system, and your kidneys there. And guess what else? Lesions in your arteries and plaque to build up, and they'll blame red meat and cholesterol. Now, another big issue with homocysteine, my friends, is that if they even check it, they'll say 14.5, you're good. We need to get it 7 and below. Between 5 and 7 is optimal. That is peak human performance. But imagine if you're here, you've got inflammation. You've got all of these issues that are slowly progressing, and they never check it. Very rarely will they check it. So as you can see there, they're always blaming the wrong thing. So issue 3 of 3 when it comes to choline. So you're eating your choline, you think you're putting it to good use. If you've got a sick gut, like they call it intestinal dysbiosis, and I'll talk about more about that and how to check for it towards the end there, it can cause high levels of TMAO. Now, the scientists, they're fighting about it. There's some saying it's bad, some saying it's not so bad. It's bad under one condition, and this is the new literature. It's bad under one condition, and I'll show you what that means. So when you have a look at a GI map, and I'll talk about that towards the end there, some scientists are saying it's going to cause heart disease, right? Other scientists say, no, it's not going to cause heart disease. It's going to cause something else, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But when you do a GI map, like as you can see here, massive dysbiosis, you can't get worse than that. And you can see that all of these species, they're creating more TMAO, trimethylamine oxidase. Okay, so it's making more of that. So you can see how a healthy gut is critical. And once you do a GI maps, you can see this is high, it correlates here and it correlates there. You can bring those down, and it doesn't take much work to do that. So you can get back to optimal TMAO production. Now, as far as Chris Masterjohn's concerned, and the research that I've done, but he is an expert. He's a PhD in nutrition science. So I'm just going to play this video, then I'll take you here to the new research about TMAO and show the true culprit when it's high. Listen to this.
I mean, first of all, the link that you provided from your doctor, from the cardiologist, is a press release. And I would never trust the press release, and I would never trust anyone who says anything is proved based on a press release. but also because press release is put out by the people who advocate the hypothesis because they are the marketers of the TMAO test. So, to the extent that TMAO is not important, no one's going to buy the test. And so I think that's important to note. There is a human study feeding choline bitartrate. That was a before and after study, not a randomized study, not a controlled study, that showed that ex vivo clotting, so when they took the blood cells out of the people's blood and then dumped chemicals on them that will make them clot, that the ones who, after they got choline, when they had higher TMAO, they had
Greater degree of clotting, but it was in a petri dish. So when it's in a biological system, like a human, it acts differently. So basically, the new scientific literature says TMA is not an issue unless you've got heart disease, you've got plaque in your arteries. And I'll talk about how to start fixing that issue and how to stop it from happening based on what I've learned from my good friend and mentor, Dr. Anthony J, who did a PhD on sex hormones and cholesterol. He's done a lot of Alzheimer's research and heart research too. So what happens when you got high TMAO? It causes plaque instability. So you start getting heart disease because you're eating a shitty diet and you're stressed out all the time. You're not getting enough choline there. It ruptures right here, rupture, and then it causes a blood clot. Then you have a heart attack or you have a stroke. So you have to stop plaque building up in your arteries there. And I'll talk about how to do that in 2 slides. But what I first want to talk about is they're blaming eggs and red meat for heart disease and high TMAO production. So you can see here on this study, this was 2013 too, a long time ago. The control, they were having a breakfast of toast and a few veg and a bit of fruit, and it generated more TMA plus TMAO. Now, beef alone is a lot smaller, and eggs is over here, pretty close to it. Now, just to show you here, now if you eat 6 egg yolks, your TMAO in 6 individuals that were tested there, 8, 21, 10, 6, and you really don't want it above 30. So you're well within the safety zone there. And as you can see over here, if you eat toast and a few veg, you're much higher, you're a little bit higher than eggs, and beef's way down there. But check this out. The centenarians eat a lot of fish, right? They eat a lot of fish. And look at the squid and prawns here, like 4,000, massive amounts. And you've got other fish over here, 8,000, 6,000, 4,000, lots of TMAO. So why are they blaming beef and eggs all the time? Well, if you're paying any attention to the narrative about changing the food supply, so you're not eating eggs, you're not eating beef, it really, that's exactly what you can see that's going on there. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. Now, here's the true culprit of heart disease. Here's one of them, and I'll also show you another one. So there's really 3 big issues. So what I learned from Dr. J, who did his 5-year PhD on cholesterol and sex hormones, is that elevations in glucose can cause plaque to build up in your arteries, but also homocysteine. So we've already talked about homocysteine there, right? Plaque in your arteries, it's building up. And we've tested hundreds of people, and about 90% have high homocysteine. So it's slowly causing plaque to build up in their arteries there. Now, problem number 2 is if you have dysregulation in your blood sugar, meaning it's too high too often, it causes plaque to build up. So what you see on screen there, I found in Dr. James DiNicolantonio's book called The Blood Sugar Fix. It was adapted from a Keefe et al. 2008. They've known about this for a long time. So this is a 2-hour postprandial glucose test. After 2 hours with this test, if your blood glucose comes to 87 and below, for us Aussies, that's 4.7 and below, then you've got a coronary regression in the plaque in your arteries. Coronary regression in the plaque in your arteries. Now, when it's above that, it starts to build up. So dysregulation in blood sugar, and the more dysregulation, the faster the plaque builds up. Then over here, now this is Dr. J just speaking about blood sugar. When we're working with clients with Dr. J, he's always drumming into us, you've got to get your blood sugar optimal. And for a lot of people, it's suboptimal because their physicians say 100 is okay, or in Australia, that's 5.5. Now, let's listen to Dr. J, the expert. Check this out.
85, or for us Aussies or people in the UK there,
4.7.
it's 4.7. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we have to really understand, is just to keep that blood sugar below that thick level. And the mainstream doctors say that 100 is okay, but it's really not, is it?
Oh, it's insane. It's completely insane. What they do in the medical system with sugar is they wait until you get full-blown diabetes before they like to complain about it, because that's when they can start selling drugs. It always goes back to the drug sales and how they're trying to manipulate things for that. But you don't want to wait until you get diabetes to pay attention to your blood sugar. You want to be optimized, right? That's the whole goal in all of this.
So as you can see there, you really need to pay attention to your blood sugar because it's going to cause that to build up. And we've got another problem with blood sugar, which is growth hormone release. Now, as I learned from Matthew Walker, sleep scientist there, without growth hormone replenishing the lining of your blood vessels right here, so it's the shield of your blood vessels there called the endothelium, without growth hormone replenishing them, they're shorn and stripped of their integrity, vessels rupture, heart attack and stroke become very common. Now, when your blood sugar is too high, in humans, it inhibits growth hormone release. And when your blood sugar is up, you've also got insulin up, and it also inhibits growth hormone release. So you can see the big issue that a lot of people are facing there. They just got bad, outdated information. So another thing, the final thing that I'll talk about before I give you this strategy, the ultimate strategy, and also the basic strategy that you'll see right here. So this is probably where you need to start. I just want to quickly talk about inflammation, which is an important blood marker. Now, a lot of my new clients come to me and they say, I've had my inflammation checked. My doctor said it was fine. All right. That's because in a standard lab, they'll say under 3 is okay. So one of my clients came to me and it was 1.7. Now, where do you think it should be? Optimal is below 1. Ideal inflammation, C-reactive protein, is 0.5 and below. I got that back to front. 0.5 and below, as you can see here. So one of my clients we've been working with for quite some time, 0.2. So what you have to do is make sure that your blood labs are in optimal range. And I've got more information below to download a PDF to find out what optimal blood ranges are. So you can check that one out. Now let's have a look at the ultimate and the basic plan. Now, before we get to going through these steps, what I need to do is just show you this genetic test for choline status, and it will blow your mind. Let me just fire it up here. Wrong page, over here. So Chris Masterjohn, genetic choline calculator. So what I'm going to do, like, you don't have to do this, but there's 2 other ways you can test it, but this is what is basically going to show you exactly, definitively, how much choline that you're going to need each and every day. So I'm going to select my raw data file, and there she is there. So what's going to happen now, it's going to upload it, and Chris has his own software, and I'll show you the genes that's being tested there. And it's going to blow your mind about how much choline I actually need. And remember that the RDI is 450 for men per day. And we've tested hundreds and hundreds of people, and we've never really seen it at that level. It's always been above that. And sometimes, as you'll see with mine, substantially above that. I've only seen one guy that's needed more than me, which is pretty extreme. And we can also show you exactly why that's the case. So it's just about finished uploading. It's doing the calculations, and it shouldn't be too much further away. Now, if you want any help with this, drop a comment below. More than happy to do another video about the genome sequencing there. So it's been successful, and here we go. So I need the equivalent of 8 egg yolks, and what that means is that a large egg yolk is about 136 milligrams of choline times 8 equals basically 1,100 milligrams per day. Now, remember that the RDI is 450. So if I want to trigger rest and digest, mental calm, if I want to detox, have great gut health, great brain function, I need a lot more choline than the average person there. So let's have a look at the genes. So I'm homozygous, red. Then I'm heterozygous with 4 others, and all the genes that's been tested for choline status. So as you can see here, 50% decrease, 13% decrease, 33% decrease. So it's pretty accurate. So that's Chris Masterjohn's choline calculator. Right. So let's just quickly talk about, I wouldn't, let me get another colored pen here. I wouldn't basically worry about this one. This is kind of a last resort. I've only used this for a few clients. Now, this GI map is where we always start because what you don't measure, you don't know. And I'll talk about that now. So right here, here's a classic example. This is like case study, complete dysbiosis, low-grade inflammation, maldigestion, big metabolic imbalance, as you see here, not very good at all. So you can custom tailor a plan for each individual, and also a yeast infection, which is causing a lot of the issues that he's experiencing there. So because he's got really poor production of butyrate, we've got him supplementing sodium butyric acid there. So that's going to push all of these numbers back in the green, straight from the get-go there. So that inflammation that he's experiencing there is going to go off, and that's going to be fantastic. Now, the dysbiosis and a 10 score there, nothing good looks there. And what you don't measure, you don't know. And as I mentioned there, like some of them can be too high. We've got to get them into the butter zone. If it's too high, no good. Too low, no good. So he's got complete dysbiosis. But because we know what species he's lacking and what's too high, we can give him a strategic plan. Now, one strain in particular is Akkermansia, right? Basically zero of it. And Akkermansia is phenomenal, but we don't want it too high either, because it can actually, they've now shown correlation with Akkermansia being too high and TMAO. So we don't want to overproduce it. So we want to get into the butter zone there, right about there. Now, Akkermansia lives in the protective lining of your gut, your intestines, your colon, and also your lungs and your esophagus there. And when it's really low, the thickness of the protective lining of all of that is suboptimal. And when we repopulate it to here, it's like you've got a cast iron gut. You've got 3 times the thickness, the protective lining of your gut. And they've now shown that when you get it to that place, it can protect you from food sensitivities and even celiac disease. So it's like you got a cast iron gut. Now, just an example here, when we go over people's GI map there, like this is protocol 1 for one person, about 2 to 3 months. Protocol 1, well, this is another protocol for this person, like 6+ months. So you can see we're all uniquely different, and it just depends what comes back, because we've got to get them all into these optimal ranges here. As you can see, optimal ranges is where we need to go, especially with the blood labs there. So that is the GI map there. Now you can also do genome testing and food sensitivity, and I've done videos on this. Hopefully they're linked below. Now I've got a PDF that you can download, and that's going to show you what labs to get checked. Number 1, which is so important, like homocysteine, whole bunch of different labs, like thyroid's a big one, and also what is optimal range. Now this big wide range, optimal range there. And what I'll focus in on now is how to use what's called a nutrient tracker. So to do that, I'll show you the basic one there. So basically, I recommend with the basic testing, just do your blood labs, see what's wrong. You can start formulating a plan. And the next thing is to just start tracking your nutrients. So let's talk about how to achieve that. So where have I got that slide? Bear with me. Here we go. So Chronometer is a great one you can get. It's like an app. It's also a desktop application. So it's going to track your vitamins, your minerals, your electrolytes, your immune support, antioxidant support, bone health, metabolism. So it's going to give you an overall picture of your health each and every day. And you can make, a whole week's worth of eating plans all laid out, so you know exactly what you're doing each and every day. And they've got meal ideas and recipes in there. And it's also going to track each micronutrient, vitamin, and mineral like choline, all the B vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins, all the minerals there. It can also track your omega-6 and 3, your saturated fats, your cholesterol, phytosterols, monos, polys, all of it. So that's what I recommend, is just to grab that Chronometer and start tracking. Now, before we move on to more advanced stuff there, this is the USDA's database, and they tell us to eat, like the system, the recommendations, right? This is what they tell us to eat. These things here. Now, their overall nutrient density is low, all of it. And this is what Dr. Ken, this is the first time I spoke to Dr. Ken about 4 years ago, and I'll never forget this. Listen carefully.
The untrue story that eating a slave diet is the healthiest diet for a human being. Eating a plant-based diet, that's exactly the diet that the Roman emperors fed their subjects to keep them from revolting. That they had a full belly, they didn't starve to death, but they had no motivation, they had no mental inquisitiveness or ingenuity, and so they were easy to keep down.
Yeah. It's what he called the slave diet. It makes a lot of sense because you just don't have enough to detox. You don't have enough to keep all these pathways going. Your homocysteine goes up. All these issues that arise, metabolic disease, insulin resistance, fatty liver, all of those issues start coming up because you don't have enough nutrients like choline, all these important vitamins and minerals. And they tell you this is normal. It's not normal. It's suboptimal. And we believe it. Hook, line, and sinker. And guess what else they tell us to avoid? These foods here. Remember, this is behind the USDA. So overall, they tell us to avoid all this stuff like the beef products and the egg products. And they're high. They're ridiculously high vitamins and minerals, choline, all of it. And they're telling us not to eat this stuff. And as you can see there from what I went over there, you know, we get to these pathologies, we get these disease states there, then we go on antihistamines, allergies, coughing, cold medications, anxiety drugs, asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, muscle cramps, pain medications, antipsychotics, stress and mood disorders, GI, the sick gut, and they're giving us anticholinergic, they're basically further destroying our gut function there, movement disorders like for Parkinson's disease, nausea, dizziness, motion sickness, insomnia, and sleep. Can you imagine? And also bladder. So if you're on these, remember, I'll just go back up to refresh your mind because I believe it's just so important to speak to your physician about getting off these ones because as Harvard has now shown us, where is the study in question? Right here, that if you're on these things for 3 years, dementia, 54% higher rate. So you want to be on them for 3 months as a maximum. So you got to figure out, you got to be a detective. What's going on? Where's it all wrong? Is it my blood labs? Are they not optimal? Am I measuring all the right ones? Am I doing all of that? What about my gut health? Have I done a GI map? What about my food sensitivities? What can I do to get back to health? Leave no stone unchanged because you've only got one life. And the older we get, the worse it becomes. And we buy into it. We're fatigued. We don't have any energy. No, get up and go. We're like, well, fuck it. I just couldn't be bothered. It's just too hard. So the first thing, legends, you got to do is really take this seriously. So the basic plan, as I mentioned there, is get your blood labs done. There's a PDF below. You can download it, find out which ones to get checked and what's optimal, and then start using a nutrient tracker to make sure your body's got enough stuff to do the work, to detox, for brain function, for hormonal production, for energy production, everything, because you are here to kick ass, not to be suboptimal. Because, if you want to do big things in life, there's only one way to do it. You've got to take your health seriously. So the final thing that I'll talk about here is just the advanced strategies right here. So, you can also do optimal detoxification. We've got plans for that, brain optimization. That's something that I'm super passionate about. I want a high functioning brain for life. And of course, hormonal optimization so you can get the body that you want. But hormones are important for brain health, testosterone, DHEA, thyroid hormone, choline can't be undermentioned there. So all these key nutrients push up your sex hormone production, your energy production, rip off the body fat, help you pack on muscle, and your gut health is foundational. So if you want any more information, drop a comment below. Happy to make another video about anything that you've heard me speak about today. My name is Mark Iron. I'm passionate about getting you back into the best physical and mental shape possible. So that is it for today, but I'll actually finish on this slide here because when I went through and did my certificate in nutrition, the functional doctors there said that many clinicians, they don't take your symptoms seriously because your constipation, your bloating, your stomach pain are early signs of any, and I express any, autoimmune disease developing like Parkinson's disease. And then they give you those anticholinergic drugs, which make it all worse. Your gut doesn't work properly. Your brain doesn't work properly. It's just incredible. And one of my friends that I'm helping, he sent me this list of medication that his dad's on, and his brain's starting to fail. Everyone's saying it. His dad's in denial. And he said to me, look at all the pills my dad's on. I mean, God, look at them. And there's anticholinergic, can't even say it now. My brain's just about tapped out. Cholinergic drugs. He's on these anticholinergic drugs, which is making his brain underperform and making dementia much worse. As you saw there from Harvard. And when I showed him this the other day, he was like, holy shit, we have to do something about this. I have to get through to him. So hopefully my friend can get through to his dad, because who wants to live suboptimal with dementia? So I'll leave you with that, legends. If you want any other videos made about any topic that I've spoken about here today, drop a comment below. More than happy to help.